It was Friday, and I left the hangar earlier than usual. The guys had things to take care of, and after that, they'd probably head out since I wasn't around. I was eagerly looking forward to spending the evening with my beautiful wife, Lila. We'd known each other for nearly 6 years and had been married for 3.5. Both of us were 29. Lately, our intimacy had been a bit off, and over the past month or so, she seemed distracted. Determined to make the evening special, I planned everything carefully. I picked up a couple of bottles of good wine, ribeye steaks from the butcher, and roses from a florist, much better than grabbing them from the supermarket. I envisioned lighting candles and hoped we could reconnect and talk about whatever had been troubling her. With a bit of luck, we'd end the night early and on a good note. I got home well before Lila and got to work. I cleaned the house, put fresh sheets on the bed, and set up candles in the bedroom. I set the kitchen table with our best silverware and napkins, wanting everything to feel extra special. I opened a bottle of wine to let it breathe and placed the roses by the front door so she'd see and smell them as soon as she walked in. She adores the scent of roses. In the kitchen, I started prepping my signature scalloped potatoes. Thin slices of potato, lightly drizzled with olive oil, seasoned with salt, pepper, and a touch of rosemary. I sprinkled just the right amount of mustard powder on the steaks to give them the perfect flavor. With everything ready, I felt proud of how it all turned out. Now, all I had to do was wait for the love of my life to arrive so I could show her how much she meant to me. I hoped this magical feeling would carry us through the weekend. Just as I was laying the potato slices on the baking tray with the oven preheating, I heard the front door open. Lila's voice called out, "Edward, are you home?" That caught me off guard. My car was parked out front, and the roses by the door should have made it obvious I was here. I had just finished sprinkling rosemary on the potatoes when I heard her voice from the living room. "All right, we got here first. Let's sit on the couch. When he walks in, it'll look better if we're sitting and he's standing. That way, he won't be startled when we tell him." "Tell me what?" I thought, stepping into the living room. What greeted me was a scene I hadn't anticipated. Lila, visibly shocked at my sudden presence, and another man. At first glance, I recognized him. Lila had mentioned him frequently over the past couple of months. He was the new deputy head of HR. Just over 180 centimeters tall, fit, blonde, handsome, and exuding a slightly arrogant air. My expression must have betrayed my confusion because he smirked and casually extended a hand. "Hey, Edward, I'm Hugh," he said. Still dazed, I shook his hand. His grip was firm, too firm, as if he were trying to establish dominance. He stopped just short of crushing my hand. What a jerk. I stood there, silent, as he smiled at me. Then Lila finally spoke, breaking the awkward tension. "Edward, we need to tell you something. Was he staying for dinner?" I wondered absent-mindedly. I could defrost another steak if necessary. Before I could say anything, Lila continued. "I'm going to spend the weekend with you." "It's just one weekend." Her words hit me like a freight train. I didn't see it coming. "What?" I managed to stammer. Hugh stepped forward, his tone confident, even smug. "This will be good for you," he said. "I'm going to teach her things you can only dream of. You'll enjoy being with her even more after this. It's only one weekend, and she'll never do anything like this again. Never." I felt myself snapping out of my shock. "If she does," I said firmly, "I'll divorce her." Hugh moved closer, towering over me. His expression darkened as he lowered his voice to a menacing tone. "No, you won't," he said coldly. "You can't stop me. And if you try, if you file for divorce, I promise you'll have trouble walking from that day on. Your life will be filled with pain. The choice is yours." He stepped back, standing next to Lila with a self-assured grin. "She's going to spend the weekend with me," he continued in a more casual tone, as if discussing plans for a dinner party. "I'll teach her a lot, and she'll come back to you. After this weekend, I'll never touch her again. She'll stay loyal to you." He turned to Lila and added, "Right, sweetheart?" Calling her sweetheart. What a sick joke. I stood there, stunned, completely at a loss for words. "Have you already been together?" I accused, my voice sharp, fueled by the way he called her sweetheart. "No, we haven't," Lila exclaimed, almost defensively. "That would be cheating. And this isn't." I shot back. "I need a drink," I muttered, turning away. "I'll get you a beer," Hugh offered with a tone that grated on my nerves. "I think I can at least do that myself," I growled, glaring at him. Hugh placed a hand on Lila's shoulder. "Give him a minute, sweetheart," he said, his condescending calmness only fueling my anger. "He's going to need time to process this. We've been talking about it for weeks, and we just dropped it on him in a few minutes. He needs to realize this is inevitable. He'll agree. They always do. It was clear this wasn't his first time pulling something like this. I stormed into the kitchen, my mind racing. I could feel Lila wanting to follow me, but he held her back. At that moment, it was probably for the best. And that damn sweetheart, him calling her that over and over. It infuriated me to no end. What an arrogant fool. In the kitchen, my eyes landed on the open bottle of wine. I poured myself a glass and took a large gulp, but it didn't sit right. Wine wasn't what I needed for this. I marched into the garage where I kept my beer fridge, yanking the door open so hard it nearly came off its hinges. I grabbed a bottle of Jack Daniel and slammed the fridge door shut with a loud thud. What a pair of absolute fools, I muttered to myself, the bitterness in my voice echoing in the empty space. I looked around for a bottle opener but couldn't find one. Damn, it was probably still in the kitchen. There was no way I was going back in there just yet. I needed time. Time to think, to breathe, to process. Resorting to what I'd learned in the army, I placed the bottle cap on the sharp edge of the workbench and gave it a firm strike. The cap flew off into a corner, but I didn't pay it any mind. My thoughts were consumed by the chaos unraveling in my home. How was I going to deal with this? As I stood there, letting my anger ebb just enough to think clearly, a plan began to form in my mind. Slowly, I calmed down. I walked to the far end of the garage, opened a cabinet, and retrieved what I needed. Without hesitation, I tucked it into the back pocket of my pants and headed back inside, my resolve solidifying with every step. I took a long gulp, finishing my beer, then grabbed another before heading back to the kitchen. This time, I opened the bottle properly with a bottle opener and began preparing something else. I carefully slid the largest knife from the knife block and tucked it into the back of my pants alongside the other item. It was purely for intimidation. I had no intention of ending up in jail. My plan was clear, and I felt confident. Taking a deep breath, I walked back into the living room. There they were, these shameless fools, sitting on my couch holding hands. As soon as they saw me, they quickly let go and shifted apart slightly. Good. It seemed the balance of power had shifted, even if only a little. They looked at me, clearly waiting for my next move. I pulled out my phone and tossed it onto the coffee table, making it obvious it was recording. Q stood up, spreading his arms as if trying to play peacemaker. Listen, buddy. It's only going to be for one weekend. That word, buddy, irked me even more. A smug, arrogant guy like him would never be my buddy. Noticing the phone, he glanced at it and said, I think you're recording this. That's fine, but you know what'll happen if this gets posted on social media. The pain you'll feel won't even compare to having both your legs broken. You understand? I stared at him, my voice steady. I'm recording this for my protection, and, strangely enough, for yours and hers as well. He sneered, clearly unbothered. Don't even think about sending this to work. I'm the deputy head of HR. All complaints come through me, and I've got friends who'll tip me off if anyone tries to bypass me. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know. Got it? I understand, I replied seriously, keeping my gaze locked on him. But I have a proposal on how we can handle this. He smirked, his arrogance shining through. Nodding toward the phone, I added, for the record, tell me exactly what you plan to do with my wife. Puffing up like a proud peacock, he declared, I'm going to take your wife away for the weekend and give her an experience she's never had before. She'll learn new and exciting ways for us to please each other, and then she'll come back to you, ready to give you the pleasure you've been missing. He smirked again, oozing self-satisfaction. Though probably not until the following weekend, he added with a chuckle, because she'll be so sore she won't even be able to walk straight. I didn't believe a word of his nonsense. And then what happens after that? I asked. She comes back home to you, having experienced the best time of her life, he said smugly. But she's promised me she'll remain faithful to you every single day for as long as she lives. She'll show you new skills and techniques that'll drive you crazy. I turned to Lila. Lila, is this really what you want? Yes, please, Edward, she said, almost pleading. It's just one weekend, and after that, I promise I'll be faithful to you. Turning back to Hugh, I pressed, and what happens if she doesn't keep her promise? Just like she promised to be faithful to me on our wedding day. What if she cheats on me again? Are you going to come back and torment her the way you've threatened to do to me? Or what if some god of sex shows up and offers her something even better? My voice dripped with sarcasm, but it clearly didn't register with him. He looked confused, as though no one had ever questioned him like that before. She promised me she'll stay loyal to you after this weekend, he finally said, as if that settled everything. Yeah, because I believe everything she says right now, I shot back. Then, Fixing my gaze on him, I said, "Here's the deal. I'll fight you for her." Hugh was a bit taller than me, broader in the shoulders and younger, but that arrogant smile never left his face. "If that's what you want, let's do it," he said. "I don't want to waste the weekend, so let's settle this here and now." "I'm in," I replied. Lila pressed her palms to her mouth the way she always does when she's nervous. "Two men fighting over me. How exciting," she said, her eyes lighting up. I turned to her and growled, "I'm not fighting for you. You're not worth it. I'm fighting for my self-respect." The spark in her eyes vanished, and her face turned serious. I turned back to Hugh. "If I win, you'll leave and never speak to her again, not even at work. If you win, you get your weekend with her, and I won't divorce her. But there are rules." He still wore that smug look. "All right, let's hear them. The first one to fall on his back loses. No knives, no weapons. Everything else is fair game. And whoever wins, no calling the police." "Fine. No police," he said, smirking. "Do you have any knives?" At that, I pulled a large cookery knife from the waistband of my pants and placed it on the coffee table. His eyes widened. "And I suppose you've got a gun too?" he asked, still smirking. With a smile, I reached behind my back and pulled out an air pistol, an exact replica of a Glock. I wasn't sure if he knew much about guns, but this one looked real enough, especially when I held it firmly in my hand. His confidence faltered for a moment, though he tried to maintain his arrogant facade. "I'm going to beat the hell out of you before I put you on your back," he said, attempting to sound intimidating. "Do your worst, you idiot," I replied coolly. "Just remember the 3 rules. No knives, no weapons, and no police. Everything else is fair game." "I'm not stupid. I get it," he snapped. "You little punk, you'll pay for this. I might even keep her with me for the whole week." "If you win, do whatever you want," I said, stepping closer. "But if I win, at least I'll be able to respect myself for trying to defend my marriage. I won't feel ashamed every time I look in the mirror." Suddenly, Lila's demeanor shifted. She must have recognized the determination in my voice, an intensity she had seen in me before. It was clear things weren't going the way she had imagined. "No, please stop. I've changed my mind, Edward. Don't do this. Please," she cried, panic creeping into her voice. "Hugh, leave now. I don't want this anymore." She realized I was gaining the upper hand. I growled, my voice low and firm. "Too late, sweetheart. You started this with him weeks ago, and I'm going to finish it here and now, one way or another. Grab your phone and record it. I need proof." Lila was in tears, the situation spiraling far beyond her control. I motioned toward the kitchen door and said to Hugh, "After you." He hesitated but walked through the kitchen and toward the back door. As he stepped outside, I grabbed a few of the preparations I had set up earlier. The moment he stepped onto the patio, I kicked him square in the back, sending him face first into the flower bed. He scrambled to his feet, his eyes blazing with fury. I just smiled and said, "No rules." Not entirely true, but the point was made, and it had the desired effect. He was livid. Perfect. The balance of power had shifted even further in my favor. It would have been nice if he'd fallen on his back right away, but I didn't expect that. He swung at me with his right hand, a slow, telegraphed punch that might as well have come with a warning. I easily blocked it and, in one fluid motion, threw the contents of my right hand, salt, pepper, rosemary, and mustard powder, into his face. He clutched his face, screaming in pain. I lunged forward, trying to push him onto his back, but he managed to stumble backward. Through tears, he lowered his hands, glaring at me, his nose dripping with snot. I calmly walked up and punched him in the stomach as hard as I could. He doubled over, but still didn't fall. One hand clutched his stomach, while the other stayed on his face. I didn't hesitate. I kneed him in the groin with all the strength I could muster. He collapsed onto his knees, retching and groaning. He didn't have enough hands to hold everything that was hurting. I tried to push him onto his back again, but he resisted. Frustrated, I punched him square in the face. His head snapped back, and he wobbled on his knees, but he still didn't go down. My next punch landed directly on his nose, and blood sprayed everywhere. The pain in his face was something you don't see even in movies. It was raw and brutal. I slapped him across the face with an open hand. His head jerked to the side, and I followed up with a backhanded slap. That was a dumb move. My hand stung like hell afterward. Leaning in close, I spoke quietly but firmly. "You can stop this. All you have to do is lie on your back." I raised my hand as if to strike again. His knees buckled, and finally, he collapsed onto his side before rolling onto his back. The balance of power was now completely in my favor. I glanced at Lila. Tears streamed down her face, but I couldn't tell whether they were from fear, regret, or something else entirely. Grabbing Hugh by the hair, I yanked him to his feet, not gently. Dragging him toward the garden gate, I opened it and hissed, "Remember this. You will never speak to her again, coward. And if the police come knocking, this beating will feel like a warm-up." I shoved him through the gate and slammed it shut. The stench hit me as I turned back. He'd soiled himself. Lila stood there, still holding her phone, tears glistening on her cheeks. "Send me a copy of that video," I said coldly as I walked past her into the kitchen to wash my hands. At least Hugh would smell faintly of rosemary thanks to the seasoning I'd thrown at him earlier. I headed upstairs, and Lila followed me. Opening the closet in the spare bedroom, I pulled out a suitcase. Without saying a word, I began packing her belongings, starting with her underwear. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I'm yours. I belong to you." I didn't respond. I just kept packing. "We agreed I wouldn't divorce you if I lost," I said calmly, "but as you just pointed out, I won. Which means I'm divorcing you. I suggest you go stay with your parents." I carried the suitcase downstairs, opened the front door, and tossed it outside. Then, picking up my phone, I dialed her mother's number. "Hello, Edward. This is a pleasant surprise. What can I do for you?" Mary's voice came through, cheerful as ever. "Mary, would you be so kind as to come pick up your daughter?" "I'm divorcing her," I replied bluntly and hung up the phone before she could respond. To drive the point home, I sent her the audio recording of Hugh bragging about how he was going to spend the weekend with her daughter and how that's exactly what she wanted. With that, I turned off my phone, took Lila by the hand, and led her outside. I shut the door behind her, locked it, and ignored the knocking that followed. After a while, the knocking stopped. I had expected a visit from the police, but none ever came. Perhaps Hugh was too ashamed to admit he'd been beaten by someone smaller than him. Either way, it didn't matter. I spent Saturday sorting through all of Lila's belongings and doing some calculations. When my grandparents passed away, the house was left to my sister and me. I'd taken out a small mortgage to buy out her half, and I knew I'd need to reimburse Lila for the portion she had contributed toward the mortgage. As I worked, I edited the video and audio clips and emailed them to every address I could find at Lila's workplace. People like Hugh always make enemies along the way, and I had no doubt someone would ensure this reached HR. On Sunday morning, Lila's father arrived to collect the rest of her things. He hesitated before speaking. "Is there any way that you could?" The expression on my face must have answered the question he hadn't finished. He sighed, extended his hand, and we shook. I suspect her parents played a significant role in why the divorce proceedings went so smoothly. It's been just over 4 months since I filed for divorce. On a quiet Saturday afternoon, I was in the garage cleaning my air guns in preparation for a shooting competition the next day. The doorbell rang, breaking the peaceful silence. I was about to get up to answer the door when I heard Ivy call out, "It's okay, I'll get it." Ivy, the woman who kept my house in order, appeared at the garage door a moment later. "There's a lady at the door who says she's your wife. About 170 centimeters tall, blonde hair, maybe around 30 or a bit older." I've put the kettle on and left her in the living room. Curious and slightly annoyed, I made my way to the living room. It was Lila. She had clearly made an effort to look nice, but something about her seemed different. She looked older, perhaps 5 years older than when I last saw her, and not well. This was the first time I'd seen her since the day I kicked her out. "What do you want?" I asked bluntly. "I'm paying you the agreed amount for the house." Lila's face crumpled slightly, and she took a deep breath before speaking. "Edward, I'm so sorry. I made a terrible mistake. He convinced me, promised me everything would be okay. He told me that if you really loved me, you'd let me go through with it. He sounded so convincing." She paused, as if choosing her next words carefully. "He even had one of the other women tell me how it had worked out for her. Is that other woman still married?" I asked, already knowing the answer. She hesitated. "I don't know. I don't work there anymore." After everyone saw the video and heard the audio recordings, I was so ashamed. No one wanted to talk to me. I had to leave. "I have to ask," I said, my tone flat. "Are you still seeing Hugh?" "No," she said quickly. "I never intended to. He kept his side of the deal and never spoke to me again. But he didn't last long. He missed a few days of work, and by then, everything had fallen apart. They kicked him out of the building. Rumor has it another husband beat him up." "Wasn't me," I said dryly. "I know," she said softly. When you dragged him to the back gate, you warned him, and he stayed away. The police never came to your door, but I can't imagine you kept looking over your shoulder for a while. Serves him right, though. He's not a decent man. Decent men don't sleep with other people's wives. She looked up at me, her eyes brimming with tears. Please, Edward, can we try again? I'll never do anything so stupid again, I swear. I really love you, and I thought it was for your own good. But I was wrong, and I'm so sorry. It was a mistake, one I'll regret forever. At that moment, Ivy entered the room, carrying a tray with cups, saucers, a teapot, a milk jug, and some biscuits. She set the tray down on the coffee table and said matter-of-factly, "You might want to let it steep for a while." Then, without another word, she disappeared back into the kitchen, leaving Lila and me alone once more. Lila watched Ivy leave before turning back to me. "Or have you already found someone to replace me?" "That's Ivy," I replied. "She cleans here once a week. She also works as a cleaner at our hangar. I've been so busy with work that I don't have the time for it myself. And, just so you know, I had to take out an extra mortgage just to pay you." Lila looked down, her voice soft. "Is there any chance?" "Please, Edward." I poured myself some tea and took a sip. It was weak. Ivy had been right. I should have waited. It's been almost 4 months, and I haven't heard a word from you. You didn't contest the divorce. Why now? She hesitated, looking down at her knees, clearly embarrassed. "I know I made a terrible mistake. I wanted to give you time. I hoped you'd miss me, and I had to gather the courage. My mom said that if you love me, you might give me another chance. My dad thinks I'm wasting my time, but I had to try. Please, Edward." I took another sip of tea, my emotions still tightly controlled. Just then, Ivy came back in, carrying a tray of cleaning supplies. She headed toward the stairs. "I'm just going to tidy up upstairs," she announced cheerfully. Then, with a smirk, she added, "There's nothing in your bedroom I shouldn't see, right? Hope you've put away all your bondage gear." Without waiting for an answer, she darted upstairs, chuckling to herself. I glanced at Lila. "That's just her little joke," I said flatly. "You know we never got into anything like that. Maybe we should have, but you never wanted to explore anything out of the ordinary. Except, apparently, with that idiot. Even doggy style was too much for you." Lila's face flushed, but I didn't give her a chance to respond. My anger simmered beneath the surface, though I worked hard to keep it in check. "What do you think?" I said, my tone firm. "You blindsided me, telling me you wanted to spend the weekend with another man. You planned it for weeks and gave me 2 minutes to decide, even threatening me with violence if I didn't agree. You got excited at the thought of 2 men fighting over you, hoping your lover would win so you could enjoy your weekend of wild sex and then come back expecting everything to go back to normal. But for me, that would have been the new normal, wouldn't it? In your mind, I would never have measured up to your lover after that." Lila looked at me, her eyes glistening with tears. "Yes, I was excited when the 2 of you were about to fight for me," she admitted. "But then, I saw you pull out a knife and your air gun. That's when I realized I had made a mistake, and that Hugh would never win. I never wanted to see you in that situation, Lila, and I'm truly sorry for putting you there. I loved you with all my heart, but you ended that love when you told me you were spending the weekend with him. The past few weeks, you've seemed distant and quiet, and I could tell something was off. I tried to make you feel better, but now I understand why, because you were planning to be with him. I had a special dinner ready and flowers for you, yet you chose him over me. You didn't even come to talk to me. Instead, you made it final by threatening me. How could you do that to someone you said you loved? I can never trust you again, and honestly, it's painful just being near you." I told her it was time for her to leave. She stood up and walked toward the door, and I opened it for her. She looked at me and said, "I love you. I'm truly sorry, but I understand." Before she left, I threw one last remark at her. "Do you remember the girl who talked about Hugh?" "Yes, Alicia Brown. Well, she's about to become Alicia Smith. Her husband's making her take her maiden name back." She turned away in tears, and I didn't watch her leave. I couldn't help but wonder how Ivy was doing upstairs. I went up and found my bedroom door ajar. I stepped inside, unbuttoned my shirt, and tossed it aside. Ivy would probably scold me for that later, but I didn't care. When I walked into the room, I saw Ivy lying on the bed, waiting for me. Life is quieter now, and I've come to appreciate that. The house, once filled with tension, now has a sense of peace that I never thought I'd find again. Ivy and I, we've built something real, something steady. We never rushed into anything, Never put pressure on ourselves to live up to some idea of what a relationship should be. And somehow, that's exactly what makes it work. She moved in a few months ago, and honestly, I don't think I could have imagined how natural it would feel. We slip into our daily routine with ease. Mornings over coffee, evenings on the porch watching the sky turn orange and pink. There's no drama, no games. Just two people sharing their space, their time, and their lives. It's funny. I spent so long thinking I needed something more, something bigger, to feel fulfilled. But what I have with Ivy is exactly what I need. She doesn't demand things from me, she doesn't try to fix me, and she doesn't expect me to be anything other than what I am. And that, I think, is the key. I've spent so much of my life trying to meet expectations, to please others. But with her, I don't have to do any of that. She accepts me, flaws and all, and that's more than enough. We don't have to talk about the past, the mess I left behind with Lila. We don't dwell on regrets or what-ifs. We just move forward, and that's exactly what I need right now. Every day with Ivy is a new opportunity to build something better, something more fulfilling. She's working on her own projects now, something she put off for years. I'm proud of her. She's been nothing but supportive of me, even when things got tough, and now it's my turn to give back. We help each other out, we laugh at the small things, and we keep our home a place of warmth, a place where we can just be. I'm not sure what the future holds, and I don't need to. All I know is that for the first time in a long time, I'm at peace. Ivy and I haven't rushed into anything. No pressure, no labels. But when I look at her, when I think about our life together, I know I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. She's my partner, in every sense of the word, and I wouldn't change a thing. I used to think happiness had to be something grand, something big. But now, I realize it's in the quiet moments, the everyday life, shared with someone who truly gets you. And with Ivy, that's exactly what I've found.